Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. We're here in London at the Eubank Jr-Benn press conference. I'm joined by trainer Tony Sims. Tony, straight into it. First of all, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Andy.
Good to hear. Now, we've just seen your charge, Conor Benn, get on stage for the first time with Chris Eubank Jr. What did you make of the press conference? What did you take away from it?
It was a good press conference, you know, it was expected. They personally don't really know each other really well. Obviously, everything's going through the dads, and you know, it was a good press conference. You know, I think both of them said things that got each other rattled, and I think, you know, it's going to be a great fight.
Do you feel like Junior's overlooking the challenge of Conor when he's talking about only needing to come in at 60% and about how he doesn't need to train as hard as what he has previously?
I think 100% you're right there, you know, I think he is, and you know, I think the way he's talking is overlooking Conor Benn, definitely. But you can't underestimate, you know, what an athlete and good fighter he is. You know, he's #1 middleweight challenger, you know, and he's a good fighter, so you can't underestimate him. But I do believe that he is overlooking Conor Benn. He obviously thinks he's too small for him, you know, and but we'll have to see on the night, you know.
When people talk about, well, sorry, when Junior rather talks about the weight difference and how he's having to give a little and the rehydration clause and what have you, do you feel like it's what Conor says, he's making excuses?
Well, he said that. That's how the fight was made in the first place, because the fight was never going to get made. And that was the first question that we was asked. If it was a 157 fight, would you take the fight? And I said, yeah. So, you know, he set his own weight, what he wanted to be. I didn't say to him, you got to come in at 154 or you got to make 155. We didn't even talk about that. They come to us and said, if you're at 157, would you take the fight? And then I said, yeah.
So obviously I saw the interview you did the other day where you said that he can't weigh above 158 and a half, otherwise the fight will be cancelled, and for every pound he's over he has a £100,000 fine. So with that in mind, do you think that Junior might look to make the most of that and try and get in as close to the 158 and a half mark and pay whatever that fine would be?
Don't know, because he set the precedent of making the weight. So he you know, he set that weight. So I expect him to come on the weight. You know, the fines are only to make sure that he makes that weight. Because if he comes in over 158 and a half, and then the fight's off. So, you know, he's got to make that weight, and you know, he's asked us. We said yes straight away. So, you know, that's down to him now. That's his job to do.
Tony, what is the rehydration clause?
That's between Chris and Conor. You know, that's a personal thing between them two. But again, he set that weight. He set the clause. Chris Eubank, not us.
Did you guys kind of have any, not difficulties, but did you have kind of a back and forth over what you felt would be an acceptable clause? If obviously you're not going to say what that would be.
Not really. They set the clause. They set the clause, and we agreed to it. We never set any clauses.
Tony, for yourself, obviously you would have been around, and you was around obviously when they previously fought. This is for fathers, that is. What would it mean for you to be able to guide Conor to victory on October 8th?
Listen, at the end of the day, this is a job. At the end of the day, you know, and as Ronnie pointed out earlier, I've been in the game for 26 years, and it's just a job. I've guided, you know, fighters to world titles, and you know, this on a British scale is like probably the biggest British fight since Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank Sr. You know, so you know, it's my job to get in the best shape physically and mentally that he can, and that's what I'll be doing, you know, and you know, I believe that he can become victorious.
Was you surprised to see this fight come to fruition at this stage? Because when it was spoken about, it must have been 6-8 months ago, it was always spoken about maybe in a couple of years' time, whereas now we're here, it's on. Are you surprised this is the next fight for Conor?
Well, yeah, we was looking at the Keith Thurman fight, and we was looking at several welterweight contenders, and this fight was like a curveball that got thrown in. As I say, it got thrown in because we was offered the fight, providing that could be at that weight, and we agreed to the weight, and that's how the fight got made. You know, it was the weight thing that was offered to us first. Because obviously, if we said no, we can't do that weight, then the fight would never go further. But as soon as we said we can, then the fight started getting developed.
What would victory on October 8th do for Conor, in your opinion, Tony?
Well, what do you think it'll do to him?
He's already seen as kind of a star now, beyond that superstardom.
Well, exactly, you know, and you know, people talk about, you know, him jumping up 2 weights, and is it possible? But if you look, and people were saying, if you look at history, you look at Kell Brook, Golovkin tried it. You look at Amir Khan with Canelo tried it. But let's talk about real history. Let's talk about Emery Armstrong. You know, when he won the featherweight championship of the world and jumped up to welterweight, won that, went back down to lightweight and won that. Let's talk about Roberto Duran when he was lightweight champion of the world, jumped up to welterweight to beat Sugar Ray Leonard. Conor Benn ain't jumping up to welterweight to fight Sugar Ray Leonard, by the way, 2 weights. He's jumping up 2 weights to fight Chris Eubank Jr. And that ain't any disrespect to Chris, because Chris is a great fighter. But, you know, there's plenty of people who've done this and, you know, achieved the win. And, you know, and that's what I'm expecting Conor Benn to do.
Tony, he comes through and he's successful. Do you see him just dropping straight back down to 147 and chasing a world title at that weight?
Yeah, of course, you know, and his goal is to win the welterweight championship of the world. But maybe if a massive fight at 154 presented itself, maybe he'd take that. Because, listen, people think because he's short, you know, he's a small welterweight, but John Ryder's short. People say he's a small super middleweight. But you see the fight against Callum Smith, who was a massive super middleweight, and we see how that developed. So it's not about how tall you are or how big you are. It's about how big your heart is and how smart you are. And Conor Benn's got both.
Tony, to your knowledge, what has Conor kind of grown up on when it comes around the Eubank Jr. or Eubank, rather, just the Eubank name? In Conor's case, does he have that rivalry from young? Does he feel that? Does his blood boil when he thinks of a Eubank name?
I don't know. It's a question you'd have to ask him, because it's a personal question. I don't know. You know, my job is to train him physically and mentally to get through this fight, you know, and become victorious. What goes on in Conor Benn's personal headspace, you know, is a question you need to ask him.
Right, Tony, we'll leave it there now because I think everyone's being shifted on. But it's a pleasure to catch up with you. I'll catch up with you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you, mate.